Hello, hello everybody, and welcome back to our coverage of the GAMA Trade Show 2018. We are in Reno. I'm Z Garcia. I'm here with John, and I'm here with Chance from Genius Games.
That's right.
And they're going to be telling us about a whole swath of things, and a couple of one definitely upcoming game, and one that they've got that's a little bit bigger than what they're used to. So, gentlemen, why don't we start with the things that are out there that folks probably saw reviews for, hopefully have seen reviews for. Let's talk about those real briefly.
Yeah. So first, our hottest game right now is Cytosis, a cell biology game. You can look at the back of the box, and we won't take all the components out, but you can kind of see most of it there. It's a worker placement game that takes place inside of a human cell. It's extremely accurate to the science of cell biology. You're essentially placing your workers on the open spots. You are gaining macromolecule resources, such as proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, and carbohydrates. And I'll bring these custom resource pieces over here.
And these are custom bits that you can get outside of the base game. You can buy these separately and spruce it up. Okay.
Yeah, the cubes come in the game, and these are your upgrade packs.
Very nice.
And they all have the chemical structures of that actual macromolecule. So the proteins you can actually link together as proteins, or carbohydrates have the chemical structure. So nice little pieces if you really want to, you know, up the science, right?
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's Cytosis. Now we started off with a fewer smaller games. Most of these you've probably seen on the Dice Tower, but I'll show them real quick. Peptide and Virulence are two biology games, and then Ion and Covalence are our two chemistry games about ionic bonding and covalent bonding. We have a lot of not just gamers, but actually science teachers using these games in their classroom because they're so accurate.
Right,
and then gamers choosing to play them because, well, they're good games. They're fun.
Yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit about that? I know we were talking a little bit before we started here about the company itself and what you're doing with the company. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I used to teach chemistry at the college level and even some at the middle school and high school level. And one of the things that I noticed is that most of my students were coming in the classroom really intimidated before they even came in. They didn't even want to learn the stuff because they were scared of it. And I would go to my gaming group and we would memorize useless information about these sci-fi worlds and things that didn't even exist. And I thought to myself, wait a second here, what if I could get my students that excited about learning the sciences? So I designed one game and it was terrible, and I tried again and it was still terrible. So finally I joined a meetup group of all different game designers and a prototyping group, and just kept at it for a couple of years, and then launched my first game in 2014. It's a game we don't publish anymore because unfortunately it's not that good, but then our second game was Peptide here, and then our third was Ion, and after that it just kind of took off. We focus on making a game with traditional game mechanics like card drafting, worker placement, action selection, bidding, but the science is super accurate, so that if you're a scientist and a gamer or a teacher, you're going to look at both the game mechanics and the science and say, hey, that's pretty good.
And they can go ahead and use it in class, get the kids excited again. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Exactly right.
Absolutely, right. Very nice. Have you guys been in contact with teachers who have been using the games for that purpose?
We have been, yeah.
Yeah, we're partnering with the St. Louis Science Center. So we're based out of St. Louis, Missouri, and we've got an event coming up in May where we're partnering with the Science Center and bringing in over 100 teachers from around the area. We're going to be teaching them games.
Wow.
Hopefully getting them to take them back to the classroom.
Right.
Because that's one of our big pushes is not only the gaming community, but the teaching community. Both of us have education backgrounds and science backgrounds, so it kind of works together really well in that way.
Both of us are hobby gamers, so it's the perfect marriage.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Very cool. So we've got one here that looks like a prototype in front of us, so tell me a little bit about this.
That's right. So this is Subatomic, an atom building game. Now this game just ended on Kickstarter last Thursday. We raised $267,000 to publish this game. There's a collector's edition that has really nice metal coins in it as energy tokens, which I'm pretty excited about. It's our first metal coin production, so and everyone loves metal coins, right?
Absolutely.
So in this game, essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to build elements. You've got boron, beryllium, lithium, and helium. You do that by playing cards from your deck, like protons, neutrons, and electrons. Now, so this is a deck building game. In order to get these protons, neutrons, and electrons into your deck, you're going to be combining quarks and photons, which are how essentially your subatomic particles are created. So you're trying to build up the power of your deck. It starts off with these really weak quarks and photons, which you have to use multiple of them to get one subatomic particle. That's not going to get you very far. But as you build up your deck, you're going to have more and more larger particles in there. And then when they come out, you can either choose to buy bigger cards, like a standard deck building game, or you can choose to build up the atom on your player mat, and the atom on your player mat is how you claim these actual element cards, and that's how you score points. Now, when you create one of these elements or claim one of these elements, you also get to place 2 of your in-game goal markers on any of the areas except the element that you built. So you have a little bit of area majority going on for in-game points, as well as your immediate points for the elements that you build. And the elements you build do not go back into your deck. So as you're moving throughout the game, you're not actually diluting your deck. It's just pure build-up of your deck. And then you can cull cards from your deck or remove cards from your deck by annihilating them at an energy cost of 2 at the beginning, but then it gets more and more expensive as players keep pulling cards from their deck, removing cards from their deck.
Very neat, very neat. How many players does this play up to?
This plays from 2 to 4. Plays in about 40-50 minutes in a 3-player game.
Very nice. Now, I know you said you just wrapped up the Kickstarter.
That's right.
So when are you looking at it being available to everyone from the Kickstarter and then everyone else?
So we set our delivery date for September. But I'm hoping we're going to be a lot earlier than that. We just didn't want to say August and then we push into September. But hey, if we can do it in July, maybe it's a little too optimistic, but we're thinking August, September will be good.
And that'll be available at stores at that point as well?
Yes, yeah, we distribute through most of your major hobby distributors, Alliance, ACD, Southern, GTS, some of the others, and then internationally as well. So as long as they want to put in a purchase order, it should be available in all your local retailers.
Very cool. Do you know what the MSRP for that's going to be?
This will be $39.99.
Very nice. Very nice.
One unique note to touch on, speaking on the science, I know we've kind of talked about that. One thing that happened during the Kickstarter, actually, we focused really heavily on the science. We had some particle physicists actually give us some feedback on how we were creating electrons.
Right.
And so we had a lot of internal talks about basically what we were doing. People said, well, that's kind of right, but what if you did this? And so we actually changed. We initially had cards called particle wave duality cards, and we changed those to high energy photon cards because particle physicists were saying this is more accurate to the science, which is a unique thing. And I don't know if any other game companies have that, but it was really cool to kind of work through that to keep the game mechanics the same, but also include science that actually makes more sense. So obviously you have to kind of stylize the science a little bit to make the game fun, but we focus a lot on that, and it's something that I was excited to be a part of.
It's definitely one of the features, yeah. And our scientists in our community, if we do something that's inaccurate, they will eat us alive. So we try and we get their advice and feedback before we ever go to print, right? Because we want to make sure it's as solid as it can be before we publish. Right.
Well, and you want to strengthen that feedback loop of the teachers using it.
That's right.
You know, being happy to teach the content of the game using a game, and then those folks that are playing the game turning into gamers.
That's right.
And sort of feeding that feedback loop, you know. So that's great. I think what you guys are doing is very unique and interesting. So that's really cool to see you doing it well, you know. Very nice. Anything else you want to tell us?
I think that's about it. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we hear from retailers is that they enjoy having our games in their store because gamers and scientists and families will come in, and they'll usually, if they come in to buy a traditional game, the sales of these don't compete with that. It's like, you know, this is almost like a different budget. And we like to hear that because it means that people can come in, retailers can offer it knowing that this is going to tap into a different market than they're used to. When parents come in or grandparents asking for gifts, it's a perfect $20 price point for the smaller games. It's an easy sell for them. And so it's just something, you know, if you're retailers out there, we'd love for you to take a look at our product line.
Very cool. Yeah. Stay tuned for the new one. Check out their previous games, everybody, fellas. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you, folks, for tuning in. We're going to see you real soon.